coordination framework because of political concerns. Our friends said that sometimes there are these political dimensions. Now, specifically when you come to cross-border, you'll find that most of our people, they are receiving what we call the forced roaming. Forced roaming. And that is how East Africa, we said, no, we have to sit down and initiate cross-border frequency coordination. I'll not repeat myself much because Istvan has already said the purpose for coordination, what is the agreement entails, advantage and disadvantage, procedure, and I will move to the typical case of East African countries and the recommendation. When we talk cross-border coordination, actually, what we are trying to address is to avoid harmful interference. We have so many interference, but what we are trying to address is harmful interference so that we optimize use of the frequency spectrum through mutual agreement. We sit and agree how are we going to operate across the border. But the other thing which is very important, in cross-border, you have to take account the needs of your neighbor. You should not look at yourself. That's where you need to have mutual agreement, because also you are willing to take into account the needs of your neighbor. Then you will end up with a harmonization set and a standard for both countries which is mutually beneficial through consensus. Now, let me, sorry. Oh. Yeah, let me try to take you through the categories. When you sit together, you want to reach mutual or bi or multilateral coordination, you will categorize your frequencies in the following category. The first one is the frequency which requires coordination. It's not all the frequencies which will need coordination. So these frequencies required coordinations are those which, when you use, you comes to assignment, these you may proceed without having any agreement. And there are frequencies, another category which we called shared frequencies. There are some frequencies which you may share. So you have to agree that what kind of frequency are you going to share. On top of that, you will need to have a frequency register which is made up of the list set out by every administration indicating its coordinated frequency, its assigned preferential frequency, and its shared frequency. So you need a register which will indicate all these three categories which I have mentioned. Now, after identifying these three categories, then you come up, you want to make an agreement. Now, this is the content of agreement, which it's a minimum, I can say, requirement which we think that agreement will contain. It can be more or less, but these are the key ones. First, you will need definition of the terms in your agreement. There will be a general provisions which you think you have to include in your agreement. There's a technical provisions which indicates parameters and all these kind of the technical requirements which you think that how a data exchange format, which you think that in case if we exchange information, technical information, this is the format which we are going to use. There is procedure. How are you going to initiate a request in case you are experiencing interference? How do you report harmful interference? And revision, how are you going to revise that agreement? Accession to the agreement, withdraw from the agreement, and that agreement, when will it start to enter into force? So these are the key areas which are of importance in the agreement. I will not go much in the rationale. Istvan has talking a lot why we need coordination. The advantage we have seen, you optimize spectrum usage and address social and political concerns. Quick assessment of interference through data exchange. Once you have an agreement, you can make a quick assessment because all of you have technical information from both parties. Quick assignments of preferential frequencies. The frequencies which all of you have agreed that these frequencies doesn't need coordination, you will proceed assigning them because you have already agreed. Transparency decision through agreed assessment procedure. If we go through the advantage, there are many, many advantages because most of our, if at all we are carrying communication services along the border, once there is any interference reported, and if you don't have any framework, coordination framework, you will find yourself that you are entering into administrative cost. You will start to ask operators the parameters, the technical information related to the station. Maybe the operators has changed without your knowledge. So it will take you longer to solve the problem along the border. Compare if you have agreed and exchanged technical information between the two parties. So there are a lot of disadvantage. You can list them. The customers will be annoyed because the interference is there, but it takes long to resolve. It is because you have no any agreement on how to manage frequency along the borders. The coordination procedure, I think Istvan has talked a lot about this. Yeah, we have a request for all technical characteristics, radio network equipment, which has to be sent to all affected administration to enable accurate assessment of interference. Affected assess possibility of interference to own station, and there will be no possibility of interference, obliged to agree to the request. These are the issues which I think I should not dwell much because Istvan has already discussed it. Let me come straight away to the case of East African under HIPSA project. We have made a survey, as I said before, along the borders, and this it was 2010-2011 under HIPSA project. This project, 9 countries participated, and it was through questionnaires. We circulated the questionnaire, they filled questionnaire. These countries, as mentioned, was Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Sudan, Djibouti, Eritrea, Mauritius, and Seychelles. The survey assessed the existed cross-border frequency management in the above-mentioned countries. Firstly, in this survey, we tried to assess the internal capacity in relation to the tools used for frequency management, because you need to have tools. You cannot manage cross-border issues if you don't have tools. So issues like national table of frequency allocation, spectrum management software, and fixed and mobile frequency equipment, they are very pertinent for managing cross-border issues. So you'll find that these tools are helpful to manage and reduce level of cross-border interference. But the most important things which we learned is that there are 3 regional organizations, namely SADC, COMESA, and the EAC, within the area which the study was conducted. So in this organization, we found that the regulator have formed an association which among the objective was to collaborate on issues pertaining cross-border frequency management. Sometimes 2 countries may not achieve, but through this organization, through this association, it was very easy to establish and develop cross-border frequency coordination framework. Now, the other important things which we learned, and which is very pertinent also, as Itzvan said, is national frequency table of allocation. Now, the issue is not to have. The issue is it known to your operators? Maybe I can ask you, how many here they have published their national table, their national frequency table of allocation in the website? How many countries? Yeah, you will find in our survey, we found that almost 50% of the country which we conducted a survey, they have national frequency table of allocation, but it is not published. It is not known. So this is it's not good for operators. So we need first to have national frequency table of allocation and then publish it so that it is known. I think there's a problem here. Sorry, it has stuck. Another thing which also, when you come to this, to develop a framework and implementation, it's to have a converged regulator. If someone is managing spectrum, the typical case is for broadcasters. You'll find that broadcaster belongs to the Ministry maybe of Information, and the one who is managing spectrum belongs to another ministry. Two entities. Now, when it comes to enforcement, you will find that the one who are supposed to put in place the agreed parameters are operators. But the operators are under another ministry. So it becomes very complex to implement the agreement. So this is another factor which we found, that for those who have no converged regulatory authority, they had some difficulties in implementing any agreement. Can you go on? In East Africa, there is an association called IACO, which they have a cross-border frequency coordination framework. And this framework is for digital broadcasting. Can you go on, please? This framework is for GSM and digital terrestrial television broadcasting. And as I said, in East Africa, we started to put in place the framework in 2005. And this is because of one of member of parliaments, a certain committee of member of parliaments, was visiting some villages near to the border and found that most of the people living along the border, they were receiving network belonging to the other countries. So we as the regulator, we are relaxing. That's why I'm saying most of our countries, we are not concerned on the communication services across the border. So the MPs, they are the one who said, hey, wake up. There are problems here. You as the regulator, can you solve these problems? So we found that along our East African borders, we experienced a forced roaming. That's where we said, as the regulator, let us sit down and establish a framework which will address this problem. So also in digital terrestrial television, we said, no, now we should not wait. Now we are very concerned on the communication services across the border. So among the communication services which we identified, we gave them priority. It's broadcasting and GSM, and that's where we came up and developed the coordination framework. CRASA also have the same. CRASA belongs to SADC, it's the Association of the Regulator. So they also came up with a framework on GSM. Go on, please, to the next slide. So the two frameworks, when you compare, the principles of coordination framework I mentioned, the two frameworks didn't provide for preferential frequencies, shared frequency, and the register to record the result. There was no completely the register. But this framework was much dwelled on administrative procedure. Yeah, how to request the coordination, how are we going to resolve, which stations near to the border trigger coordination. So now we are trying to improve it so that it captures all the parameters for coordination. These are some of the organizations which I think they are very, very important. Through this association is where we can achieve. They can play a significant role to bring the country together to discuss and develop a framework for coordination. Go ahead. Now, the challenges which we are mostly facing is that we are the regulator, we are the one developing this coordination framework. But when operators, they are key to implementation of this agreement. So you may agree in documents, but who is setting that parameter? Who is ensuring that whatever you have agreed is implemented are the operators. Now, if they are not willing to cooperate, is where you will find the difficulties on implementing this agreement. Go on. So the recommendation is that, go on, we have to involve operators in the process of making the agreement. We have to take them on board. Otherwise, enforcing any agreement, it will be difficult. Take them on board, let them share views in that agreement so that implementation can be easily achieved. Otherwise, we have to support the initiative of ITU to ensure that we have a harmonized calculation method which we can domesticate it to African environment so that we take care of the big number of people who are living along the border. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I know everyone appreciated at its level of satisfaction with his presentation. And I will open the floor for questions, comments, if any, on the three presentations. The speakers are there, so they will answer respectively or comment each of the questions. So first round of questions, please. You have Ghana. Very good volunteer all the time. So 2 questions from Ghana here, another one. Okay, so 2 questions from Ghana and after Benin for the first set of questions. We'll take this second round, 3 questions at a time. Please ask just 1 question. I'm going to capture and to answer. If you have some other question, we'll take back on other rounds. Thank you.
My name is Abdullahi from Ghana. My question goes to the Senegalese delegate. During your presentation, you mentioned that you have HF, VHF, UHF monitoring tools, but I didn't see anything about SHF. I want to know how you monitor such frequencies.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Julius from NCA Ghana. Talking about cross-border frequency coordination, you mentioned that we should look at the need of our neighbors, very important. And indeed, in the Volta region, which has border with Togo, which is not our capital, we sometimes give a lot of breathing space to Togolese because of their capital, which is closest to the Volta region. I think that is a fantastic thing to do. But what happens when you are looking at the needs of your neighbor, and then they are not looking at your need. What else can you do? And then additionally, just want to find out how you are coordinating the FM frequency in case you file notification and then your neighbor object to almost everything along the border. What will become the next step? Thank you.
Okay. Benin, please.
Merci beaucoup. Déjà, je voudrais remercier Bara pour sa présentation. Alors, ce que je voudrais dire concerne de façon spécifique l'ensemble des outils et le mécanisme mis en œuvre par le Sénégal pour pouvoir assurer un meilleur contrôle de l'ensemble de l'utilisation du spectre sur son territoire. C'est des outils qui, vous n'êtes pas sans le savoir, dont le Bénin également est propriétaire et utilise. Et il serait quand même bien de pouvoir, au niveau Afrique, que nous puissions définir des méthodes et partager nos expériences sur l'ensemble de ces bonnes pratiques qui ont trait au contrôle du spectre sur l'ensemble de nos pays. Cela pourra ensuite nous amener à pouvoir faire des contributions réelles et pouvoir revoir les méthodes et les mécanismes de contrôle sur l'ensemble de ces ressources-là. C'est le premier volet de mon intervention. La deuxième concerne la méthode de calcul harmonisée, la méthode HIM, qui est un document dont le Bénin a activement pris part et a contribué à l'élaboration et à la mise en œuvre. Nous souhaiterons quand même avoir la version finale et pouvoir définitivement signer le dit document pour son application. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Speakers first. You have a question for Senegal and for what's Benin. Second round. After.
Alors, merci beaucoup. Je pense que c'est le délégué ghanéen qui a posé une question pour savoir comment nous faisons le contrôle HF et VHF, c'est ça? U et VHF. Hein? C'est la station goniométrique.
You don't get the interpretation? SHF.
SHF is not monitored right now. We don't have equipment for this right now. HFF.
Okay, some comments from it.
Yes.
Can comment.
Okay, so there was this question that what to do with the neighbors. They are not cooperating. So telling us this is why we need the agreement. Because the agreement is explaining what you have to do. Normally, when you do the spectrum management, of course, it's cooperation, goodwill, countries, because there can be a mutual interest. So they can cause interference, but then they can suffer from interference. So that's why it's good if you have already some agreements with the country and try to solve these difficulties within the. Of course, then you can have negotiations. Finally, if it's going to very high level problems, then you can ask assistance from the Radio Communication Bureau because they can try to negotiate. But as you saw that theoretically it's not the task of the radio regulation to have the bilateral. But of course ITU is willing to help. And also you mentioned the FM. It was for radio broadcasting, I see. Or TV also? Sound broadcasting. For sound broadcasting, you have already, for example, the ITU plans, so you're doing, then there is also some coordination procedure. Sound broadcasting, that is the advantage if you notify your network to the master register, because then they have the international protection. If it's not happening, then if you are already in the master register, you can request also you to solve the interference problem. But difficulty for the ITU that we don't have this administrative or other powers to stop the station. We just can make some recommendations. But sometimes, maybe you heard about this problem with Italy. That in Italy there were a lot of private FM stations, and they caused interference around them, Switzerland, France, Slovenia, and other countries. And they couldn't solve the problem because when a station stopped on one frequency, they started on another one. So it's a long, long discussion, and even the WRC was dealing with Radio Regulation Board dealing with this, and finally they reached some agreement with the Italian regulators how to manage this. So after a while you will reach results. But as I told, that it's the interest of both parties. Then I think there was something concerning the signature of the agreement. This is the difficult at this moment. I mentioned to you that there were some stop, because the problem is how you consider this agreement. If you consider it as a high-level agreement where it has to be signed maybe by ministers and others, then it requires different process. But if you consider that this is among regulators, you can do it in lower level. And this is the case in Europe, that a lot of signatures of the agreement was not from the ministry or the regulator, because it's a little bit technical.
Yeah, I think each one has answered the questions that the agreement has to exhaust all the possibilities. For example, in East Africa, the small countries always there are difficulties, like Rwanda and Burundi. In broadcasting, they always experience interference. But because they are under the association of IACO, we normally intervene and try to address all the differences. So this association, I can urge, they are very important. So I urge West Africa, Central Africa to use this association to develop the coordination framework. It's very important.
Thank you, Andrew. So what I can say to complete with those answers, first thing is collaboration and coordination. Because Isvan mentioned to you, there is 3 texts of treaties within IT. First one is the Constitution and Convention, and the third one is the regulation, the radio communication rules. This radio communication rule is a treaty involving all the member states. The 194 members of ITU are part of this treaty. So when you have some problems, some concerns with the country, I can tell you a story. I went recently in Brazzaville because it was a declaration of war between Kinshasa and Brazzaville, between DRC and Congo, because of use of frequency. You saw the nearest capital in the African continent are Brazzaville and Kinshasa. Just 500 meters of Congo river among them, and you have now harmful interference coming from Kinshasa and pitching Brazzaville operators and so on to achieve their duties. President Sassou said, okay, this is so dangerous, we close the border. So they first close the border, close the beach. No traffic between the two countries at the capitals. They close this, and I arrive and say, what's the problem? The problem is the coordination of frequency. And what's the problem? Yes, of course. Kinshasa, were not respecting the Geneva Agreement. They have signed this Geneva Agreement. So when we arrive, you put experts together first to say, please clarify the border, cross-border frequencies and so on, and find a solution to give to politicians. Once it was done, they have to free the frequency which are not in their plan. That's all. Now, if you want more, I can give you and go to Appendix 5 of Radio Communication Rules, page 140. Go to your type approval building at the 3rd floor. Your colleagues is dealing with, he has all the text. You can download them free from that and check. These provisions are ruled out by Appendix 5 of the rules. Each radio communication engineer shall consider the radio communication rules as a Bible of telecommunications. So you should know the skeleton of that constituency. It addresses all type of communication, maritime, satellite, whatever you want. If Ghana were to launch a satellite, you have to know by heart all the provisions of the rules. Unless you will never launch your satellite, you will be blocked at a step or at another within BR. So the BR is the ultimate place to send your problem if you cannot solve it. But we don't want to arrive to seize the BR for this kind of problems. And that's why you have IACO, you have ARTAC, all these regulatory associations. You have WATRA here in West Africa. All the regulatory associations are they have in the mandate the responsibility to try to fix all that before coming to BR and to complain because nobody is respecting the agreement. So this is the way we deal with that. But okay, I will take a second round of questions for people who want. I see there. Okay.
Jean-Jacques, just to add, so
yes.
I agree, but you see that also I mentioned that sometimes the bilateral is not directly under radio regulation, yes. So that's why we are trying to assist as much as possible, but that's why it's important to have the agreement.
Yes. Complement, yes.
Oui. Peut-être concernant la coordination au niveau des frontières, il serait peut-être bien qu'on partage, nous, l'expérience que nous avons. Nous avions eu déjà en 2013, avec nos pays limitrophes, une réunion à Dakar qui a fixé les paramètres techniques des stations au niveau des frontières. On a fait les partages des canaux préférentiels avec l'ensemble des opérateurs téléphoniques. Et ça a été réitéré par le Mali au mois de février 2018, qui a, par ricochet, invité aussi tous ces pays frontaliers. Donc, ça serait peut-être bien, dans nos prochaines réunions, de partager cette expérience, même partager les documents pour que tout le monde soit au même niveau. Je vais peut-être répondre au délégué du Bénin sur le partage de bonnes pratiques au niveau du contrôle. Je pense que tu te désignes point focal. Les gens qui sont intéressés, on va créer un réseau pour les contrôleurs sur le contrôle. Comme ça, on va créer soit un mailing list ou une plateforme WhatsApp pour pouvoir partager nos bonnes pratiques et puis poser des questions pour avancer. Voilà.
Alors ça, c'est déjà fait. Hein. Qui était au séminaire régional du BR à Dakar? On a fait un séminaire régional pour toute l'Afrique des radiocommunications à Dakar, comme tous les 2 ans. Ce réseau d'experts, je l'ai déjà créé à Dakar. Ça fait déjà 8 ans qu'il est créé. Alors je suis surpris qu'il ne fonctionne toujours pas. Ce réseau existe. Nous avons fait 2 séminaires régionaux de radiocommunication à Dakar que j'ai moi-même animé avec Benba et les collègues qui venaient de Genève. Ce réseau d'experts africains est créé. Même au niveau ouest africain, c'est créé. Alors, le problème, comme disait Isvan, c'est quoi? Au départ, chacun venait avec ses paramètres de calcul et des formules différentes. Il a fallu régler ce problème, c'est pour ça qu'on a mis en place une méthode de calcul harmonisée, pour laquelle tout le monde est bien d'accord. Nous utilisons telle formule pour calculer tel champ d'émission. Hein? Voilà, on rentre les données, les hauteurs, les puissances, les émissions, tout ce que l'on veut, on met la trame et on regarde et on est d'accord. Ce que vous trouvez, et l'autre calcule aussi avec ces données ce qu'il trouve. Les solutions techniques sont claires. Soit on diminue la puissance, soit on diminue la hauteur des émetteurs vers les antennes. Enfin, toutes les solutions techniques pour régler le problème. Une fois que ça c'est fait, on signe ce qu'on appelle un memorandum of understanding, comme le fait le Tchad et le Cameroun, comme on le fait entre le Gabon et le Congo, ainsi de suite, de manière bilatérale ou multilatérale. Bon, une fois que ça c'est fait, au niveau technique, nous pouvons opérer. Maintenant, le problème de cet agrément, c'est que nous l'avons confié aux communautés économiques régionales. C'est-à-dire qu'on nous a dit, bon, nous allons le donner à la Commission de l'Union africaine, à la CEDEAO, donc à la CEAC, pour que ceux-là voient à quel niveau il faut traiter cela. Parce que si vous regardez bien, si le règlement de radiocommunication est un traité qui lie les États, à ce moment, ça dépasse la compétence des ministres des télécoms. Ce sont les ministres des Affaires étrangères qui signent au nom de l'État par délégation du chef de l'État. Si ceux-là s'entendent pour dire que bon, les ministres des télécoms peuvent signer, à ce moment, on signera. Donc c'est encore avec l'Union africaine. Tout le traité est parti pour dire que bon, on veut maintenant signer, transposer ça de manière effective dans les pays. Donc c'est en cours, nous attendons toujours que les ministres de la CEAC se réunissent, au niveau de la CEDEAO où ils l'ont déjà fait, mais pour qu'on ait cette méthode qui soit applicable par tout le monde. Hein, mais sinon, les paramètres techniques sont déjà définis. Hein, donc ça, c'est réglé. C'est un problème de niveau décisionnel, comme vous l'a dit Svan. Au niveau africain, ça peut même peu de temps. Mais l'Union africaine, même l'Union africaine des télécoms, l'a mis dans son dossier. Donc on fait des réunions. Donc vous avez des experts à l'UAT, des experts du spectre, dont Andrew et certains autres sont membres du groupe de travail, surtout lorsqu'on prépare les CMR. Vous avez les réunions des experts du groupe de l'UIT qui ont été créés à Dakar dans le cadre du séminaire régional de la communication Afrique que nous faisons tous les 2 ans. Et on invite tous ces gens-là à échanger d'expérience, à nous faire part des difficultés quand ils ont. Moi, je suis là pour coordonner au niveau Afrique l'ensemble du secteur de radiocom. Mais le BDT n'est pas là pour faire les radiocommunications. Il y a un bureau de radiocommunication. Donc nous coordonnons et nous avons l'appui de tous les collègues, donc Bedba, Ouadrogo et tous les autres qui sont à Genève, hein, qui travaillent pour le satellite, pour le maritime et pour les services fixes, etc. et mobiles. Donc nous avons des collègues, hein, donc il ne faut pas hésiter. Vous les saisissez quand il y a un problème, ceux qui veulent des séminaires, etc. On fait venir les gens du BER si on n'a pas de compétences, hein, ou on prend nos experts africains. Donc il ne faut pas hésiter, mais ces réseaux sont constitués. Je vous invite aussi à créer des groupes africains, comme on l'a fait au TSB. Nous avons des groupes africains qui se sont spécialisés dans des tâches précises. La commission d'études 2 du BER est chargée de la gestion du spectre, de toutes les méthodes de calcul de la propagation. Eh bien, les experts africains qui assistent à ça doivent déjà avoir un premier réseau entre eux, qui assistent à Genève, à ces commissions-là. Parce que nous mettons à jour ces logiciels, pourquoi? Parce que les méthodes de calcul évoluent. Vous rappelez-vous, à l'époque, SMBC, c'était les logiciels point à point plat. On considère que la Terre est plate et on y va. On utilisait une méthode de calcul tout à fait élémentaire et tout. Aujourd'hui, nous prenons en compte le relief, etc. Bon, donc ça évolue. Les méthodes de calcul évoluent, nous mettons à jour le logiciel, mais les experts africains qui sont là-bas doivent disséminer l'information, partager aux autres ce qu'ils vont faire dans ces commissions d'études. Donc, mais nous sommes là, de toute façon, je vais vous donner les liens cet après-midi pour ceux qui veulent un peu être rodés dans cette navigation, dans toutes ces commissions d'études. Alors, j'ai 3 orateurs là-bas. Hein, premier orateur, j'en ai un quelque part ici, qui avait levé la main. For second round of questions, I have Uganda there, and Arno, you will start the first, and after I have at the back there, Uganda, and my friend here from, it's Ghana, right? Sierra Leone, okay, thank you. The speaker of a workshop, so you can wait in Nigeria.
To all presenters. We listened with very good interest the presentation about coordination, cross-border coordination, especially the HIPSA project and the HTM4A project. So as we noticed that there is now a few amount of countries that are willing to sign the agreement. This is maybe an obstacle to make it, to run the agreement. But now, if we want to perform cross-border coordination and sign maybe bilateral agreement, how can we handle this kind of process? If we have 2 countries that want to make an agreement, what is the procedure and what kind of technical parameters they have to consider between the 2 countries to sign this agreement? Because the ACM4A, it is a very good perspective because there are some general parameters that can be used by everyone, so they have the same parameters that they can use to compare their calculations. So now, if this project is not yet running, so how can we handle border coordination from now? This is the first question. Peut-être une deuxième question concernant la présentation du Sénégal. On a noté effectivement qu'en fait leur système de contrôle en fait est composé d'une station fixe et de plusieurs stations mobiles. Et dans l'exemple qui a été présenté, en fait, il y a eu en fait un tir de radiogonométrie qui a été fait sur une station, mais je crois savoir qu'en fait il y a la connexion entre les stations fixes et les stations mobiles. Dans quel cadre justement cette connexion est utilisée? Est-ce que justement dans le cadre de la radiogonométrie, on peut essayer d'utiliser plusieurs stations connectées pour avoir une localisation beaucoup plus précise en fait des émetteurs qu'on cherche à identifier? Merci.
Okay, thank you. Your question, please, there.
Thank you. My question goes to the delegate from ITU. I was disturbed by the last table towards the end of your presentation, which showed that among the over 50 African countries, it's about 20 who are willing to sign. I wanted to pick some observation. Why are the others not willing? And what efforts are being taken to, and I say, convince them?
So thank you. DRC, please.
Merci pour la parole, Monsieur Jean-Jacques. Alors, moi, je voudrais un peu aller en profondeur. Parce que moi, je suis de la République démocratique du Congo. Je crois que nous sommes un pays très particulier avec 9 voisins. Et comme a dit Jean-Jacques, nous avons la particularité unique au monde d'avoir 3 capitales à nos frontières. Et le cas le plus emblématique, c'est Brazzaville et Kinshasa. Et mon frère de la Tanzanie, d'ailleurs, nous aurons des travaux à faire avec lui. L'Angolais avec qui nous travaillons, et le Rwandais, je crois qu'il est derrière là-bas. Mais je pense que nous devons un peu aller en profondeur. Moi, je suis ingénieur en télécommunication, mais des fois, je mets ma casquette d'ingénieur à côté pour se poser la question de savoir pourquoi les ondes sont indisciplinées. Pourquoi ça cause problème à telle partie de la frontière, pas à telle partie de la frontière. Moi, j'aimerais que nous puissions faire une analyse. Et quand mon frère de la Tanzanie dit qu'il y a certaines frontières, on trouve des compatriotes qui suivent les émissions du pays voisin, c'est un problème qu'ils tirent des fois. Nos voisins, par exemple, la RDC, ils aiment suivre les télévisions du Congo pour la musique, par exemple. Vous pourrez mettre vos émetteurs là-bas, mais ils feront tout pour monter les antennes au-dessus et capter la RDC. Le même problème avec l'Angola. Techniquement, nous mettons les paramètres qu'il faut, mais quand vous entrez en Angola, vous trouverez des endroits où les Angolais font le nécessaire pour capter les opérateurs de la RDC et communiquer. Mais quand vous allez de l'autre côté en RDC, vous trouverez aussi les ondes de l'Angola, mais les Congolais ne les utilisent pas parce que ce n'est pas rentable. Je pense que nous devrons quitter des fois notre domaine technique et des fois analyser les aspects qui amènent à ces débordements préjudiciables. Ce sont les aspects financiers. Quand je reçois une onde, tant que ce n'est pas rentable, je ne vais pas utiliser. Et les paramètres, nous les mettons comme il faut, mais les gens de l'autre côté s'arrangent pour capter et utiliser. Merci. C'est ça, et c'est une observation, c'est une question, peut-être que vous pourrez réfléchir et répondre si nécessaire. Merci beaucoup.
Oui, c'est un aspect sociétal, mais c'est là partout. Vous avez le Ghana, vous avez le Bénin, et le Nigeria, vous avez le Ghana, le Togo. Bon, écoutez, si un opérateur a des tarifs moins chers, mais moi je suis à Lomé et j'utilise le réseau du Ghana, parce que ça ne me coûte pas cher. Hein? Et quand je suis de l'autre côté, si je vois que c'est moins cher d'appeler à Lomé par le G, donc ils ont tous 2 puces. Une puce de Lomé et une puce de Accra, et ils se débrouillent. Donc on ne peut pas empêcher les ondes de traverser les espaces. C'est pour ça qu'on fait un plan de coordination. Et le plan de coordination de Genève, vous rappelez-vous ceux qui étaient à Nairobi, on a réussi la coordination du plan de Genève à 98%. Ça veut dire que tous les problèmes de coordination ont été réglés par le plan de Genève pour les 30 ans à venir, les plans de fréquence qui sont les vôtres. Alors, donc on ne peut pas empêcher les ondes de passer. Ce qui est interdit, c'est de brouiller l'autre. Moi, je mets à 88 mégas ma radio. Toi, tu n'as pas le droit de mettre ta radio à 88 mégas si tu sais que c'est dans mon plan que je mets à 88 mégas. C'est tout. Tant que tu ne me brouilles pas, celui qui reçoit 4,5 ta radio, c'est son problème. Il met sa radio, il écoute le Kwacha Kwacha, la musique du Congo, tout le monde aime ça, c'est bien, mais c'est libre. Donc on va revenir sur ces aspects sociétaux. Alors j'ai une question là-bas. I have Adiga, yes, you have the floor, please.
Presentations that they have delivered to us, at least making us to be informed of what cross-border coordination is all about. Definitely, I know everyone in this room is experiencing it in his own various countries. And but in light of that, I would like Andrew to explain, because definitely when we go home, we'll try to discuss more of these things, so we have some in-depth knowledge. So maybe if you have more information, you can equally put it on the slides that will be uploaded later. But just for a quick one, I just want to know the preferential frequencies that you feel that we have less coordinations between two neighboring countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Sierra Leone, please, your question.
Yes. Good afternoon, colleagues all. I'm Sierra Leone's Minister of Communications. For the last 2 days, I've enjoyed every bit of the discussions here. We are just struck 100 days mark in office, so you could imagine we are relatively new. This forum for me serves as a major induction. I have learned some of the key and critical challenges besetting the sector, particularly as my role as Minister of Communications is also to set strategic policy directions for the sector. It's unfortunate my regulators are not here, but what this does is that it now empowers me very much. I will now be able to ask them the tough right questions to seek clarifications and all of that. It has removed me from the initial disadvantage that I was as a minister just taking over a sector that is beset with a lot of problems. Yesterday, I listened to the spectrum management discourse, and that was the first set of issues that I got confronted with when I took over. Orange, which has the second largest market share in our country, is being craving for a 4G LTE license, which is being given to a minor player, which is supposed to be the state-owned Sierratel. So we have that problem, and the Act expressly gives the minister powers to constitute the Spectrum Management Committee. But the minister needs to know things about spectrum management, at least broad idea, broad views, before you are able to ask the tough right questions. So I am confident I'm going back home a more knowledgeable person, a more insightful person. More importantly, I've drank extensively from the wells of knowledge and experience of key regulatory players from across Africa and the world generally. This is very good. Just for clarity, Sierra Leone has a one-stop regulator that manages mobile network operators as well as radio and television. So that should make our work a little less cumbersome. What has happened here, I liken to a friend of mine in the 80s. He came from a fairly well-to-do home, but the parents did not go to school. So each time he went home, he would ask them, say, Daddy, they say we should buy carbon dioxide tomorrow for school. Because he took undue advantage of the ignorance of the parents, the illiteracy, well, no insult intended. So I'm sure regulators too will have the tendency to go beyond limits, especially when they know the supervisory ministry does not have any insights. It's quite unknowledgeable. So I know nobody will be coming to ask me to provide carbon dioxide, because this forum has probably helped me a great deal. The lessons learned here are just superficial, but I know the valuable resource materials will be updated on the ITU website. You have said developments. I am going to very strongly recommend that to the regulators, so that together we can all face the myriad challenges facing the sector. I thank you very much, and I can guarantee it's been a very interesting workshop.
Thank you very much for your statement. So, there is a last question from Uganda there, please.
Thank you. I come from East Africa, and I would want my East African colleague to comment on the efficacy of their approaches and programs in East Africa. As far as I know, there are several communities that still suffer from some of those forced roamings he talked about. And he did say there's reluctance on the side of telecommunications to comply with their agreements, which is true, because to a telecom company, investing in an infrastructure is a business decision. So I wanted to understand how they have been able to deal with such challenges. I'm also aware they have funds, especially there's that rural fund for, there's money they pick from telecom companies that they could be able to use to invest to bridge gaps like that. Have they been able to do it? Then the second point is there are countries that share borders maybe in two regional associations. For example, Tanzania is both in SADC and East Africa. Uganda also has neighbors that are in SADC, for example, DRC. And I come from a border village where we at times get interferences from DRC, and every time we have tried to complain to IACO and this doesn't get resolved. And to someone who really experiences it, it can be very annoying, it is costly. So I wanted to know, do you think your programs have really helped achieve those objectives you outlined in your organization? Thank you.
Thank you. I think Heniao Andrew is also a member of East African IACO expert, and from your region, he will give you more details on your question. Is there any last questions? No, it's okay. I don't want to stand between you and your lunch, but the lunch is not ready yet. We have time to discuss a bit and 5 minutes. So I give opportunity to all the speakers to comment and give answers to your questions. So start by Andrew, please, and give some answers to these queries.
Thank you. Let me start by discussing the whole situation in general of this coordination, and then I'll come straight to the question from Uganda. You know, there are some cumbersome situations in my survey when we are conducting this project. You'll find a situation where along the border, your neighbor has directed the antenna towards another countries. He doesn't targeting his own people, but he's targeting other country. This is a cumbersome situation which really needs to be addressed among the countries so that it can be resolved. The issue of BTS, when we are conducting this forced roaming, we found that some of the telecom operators, they have two BTS, one pointing inwards and another pointing to another country. So you'll start to wonder, what is the purpose of this telecom operator? But of the recently, I want to assure my friend of Uganda, it was the last month where we called all telecom operators of Uganda, telecom operators of Tanzania. They were at the border. They were trying to refine their parameters, tuning their antenna, all of these things. They cooperated very well. Similarly, Kenya and Uganda. So this exercise was done last month. Coming to a friend at Congo, I think they have received our letter calling them for, they are not part of East Africa, but we have already written to them that they have to come and participating in this coordination framework. So because Congo is bordering to almost four East African countries. So we are taking them on board. He can attest, he is here. Actually, when we met yesterday, he said, oh, I have received your letter. So we are together with the Congo. So that one will be taken care.
We are even to coordinate with Malawi. Malawi is a part of south of Congo and so on.
Okay, so I am starting with Arno. That's how you can start the coordination agreement. I mentioned in my presentation that Russia and Finland, they are coordinating based on the HCM, although they are not members of the HCM. So the agreement itself is available, the text is available now, the HCM for Africa text is available. So if you consider, you can take this text, then based on this you can discuss with the neighbors that how you want to the coordination. Again, you can decide whether you want to have it in a high-level agreement or between regulators. But it contains all the values which can be interested for you. You can agree on different values, trigger values, how to start the coordination. But of course, if you need additional assistance, we are ready to help that what you want to discuss. This was the main thing in CRASA also, that they have already some agreement, but they wanted to improve. Even they wanted to add more services, how they can manage it. So now I'm also waiting a little bit for CRASA, because after the meeting it was stopped a little bit, but I hope that it will come back. Then concerning that, who signed, how many people, how many countries signed the agreement, it was only Seychelles who declared that they are not interested, because they are far, they consider that they are not interested. For the other countries, it's their own interest, whether they want to join to the agreement or not. It doesn't mean that later they cannot join. So if finally we can start with the agreement, anytime countries can join their interest. One interesting thing that a few years ago I presented it during the Resolution 9, that we have this HCM for Africa agreement, and Egypt was asking that, okay, we want to be also member of the agreement, why we are not there? And there were two reasons: that they were not in the sub-Saharan Africa, second, that there was no neighbor. But for example, if Sudan is joining, then they can join. I don't know whether it's replying you. Is there anything which I haven't replied?
To complete this point, you should also bear in mind the recommendation and resolutions of ECOWAS ministers. And the ICT, you can ask Dr. Raphael Kofi, once there is a recommendation coming from this sub-region, saying that, okay, you should and shall, even all of you, use this basic calculation method to build your agreement. Technically, you can go and use, but you can also agree to go beyond the trigger and the limits made within your interest. It's not forbidden, but this is a unique way to try to have a common grounded basis for calculation, which is this calculation method, already approved. It hasn't been invented for Africa. It's coming from the propagation group, from ITUR study group 2, making all the calculation and so on. And we say, okay, we can apply this calculation method for Africa and so on. And we want our people in Africa just to use it. But before you have this agreement signed by AU or whatever else, but technically you shall use it, because it's coming from the spectrum and propagation groups. And our experts are all using it. Now you can specify it and go beyond the trigger limits and whatever is there inside. So some other answers to questions, yes?
C'est la question de Arnaud. Oui, bien sûr, je pense que vous l'aviez compris. J'ai juste montré le tir de la station fixe. Maintenant, ce qui se passe, c'est qu'avec les deux stations mobiles, on va se diriger vers la provenance du signal, faire des tirs par triangulation, réduire, affiner de plus en plus la zone de localisation de la source. Et après, faire soit par roaming ou par continuer avec les tirs pour localiser plus précisément la source. Voilà.
Okay, is everyone satisfied with answer provided so far? There's some other complement. Yes, Isvan, please.
It doesn't mean that I'm not satisfied. I'm very satisfied. I like that you like the idea. Just to let you know that in Asia Pacific we had already this initiative, and then there was a study because 3 countries had some problems with the border, and they wanted to have more frequencies also allocated to the operators, and they had and there was this international situation also like here that mentioned that neighbors. And the operators came together, regulators came together, they did a lot of measurements, monitoring, that the monitoring facilities for the 3 countries were used. And based on this, they made some proposals, like you mentioned, that the antenna has to look into the country, not outside the country. So this is also a solution for cross-border issue, that you can use the monitoring services.
So thank you. I will make some point for Sierra Leone. You can pay my regards to Colonel Spencer from Sierra Leone, and even member of parliament of Sierra Leone are attending radio communication workshop in Nairobi. I saw 2 of them last time in Nairobi. We chat a lot and give them some details. So please link with your area office in Dakar Mr. Badiel is there. You have a good experience from Senegal, friends there and so on, to can benefit and to assist you and help you in whatever is needed for the coordination process and so on. So the lunch is served. Thank you very much for your questions. We'll resume at 2 p.m. After the lunch. I will have to make a presentation before opening round of discussions and to make some proposals in order to try to improve our software. Thank you. Bon appétit.
It's Larry Sachs.